What's up guys, welcome back to the Talaria Boys channel. Today we have a very exciting video for you. This is our red Talaria XXX with pedal kit installed, and it is time to finally install the first available upgraded controller. So this is a Nucular controller. It is literally the first option, readily available, plug and play. We're gonna install it today and we're gonna see if we can custom tune this bike to be even better than it already is. We're already super happy with the performance, but we want to see if we can get some higher power numbers from this battery. And then at the end of the video, we're going to test it against another Talaria XXX, see how much faster it is, see how the top speed compares, and see if this controller is worth the money.
Okay, here's what comes in the box. You got your controller, you got these 3D printed brackets that are gonna hold the controller on and look super good in there. We were one of the first people to get this controller, so we have the 3D printed version. Soon they will be injection molded brackets, just like the Talaria Sting version. You've also got your screen here, then you've got all your custom wiring for the XXX. So that's gonna go right on there, wiring to the screen. We also found out after our last video where we put this on the Sting R, you can actually plug in a thumb throttle to this bike, and then you can custom tune that to do your regen. So then you're just like the X9000, you have a thumb regen throttle. So we're stoked to try that. That's just getting the stock sprocket put back on, and we'll get this controller thrown on there. Okay, we got these 4 bolts taken off. We took off this horn cover, and then the controller came right out. Now what we're gonna do is unhook these 5 wires, as well as these 2 connectors. And then the 3 connectors. And then the controller will be off. The new one should go right on with these brackets. You don't have to cut the skid plate, you don't have to cut anything. It'll go right in there. Perfect. And the controller will bolt right to these 2 pieces. It's gonna be super easy to install. Make sure your battery is unplugged before you do any of this, which we did not do yet. If you guys don't know how to unplug your battery, here's how you do it. You take off your bottom shock mount, your whole wheel will go down. Then you're gonna unscrew these 2 bolts here. You might have quick releases there, we have bolts. I think it's because we have the pedals. You're gonna take off those 2 bolts, this cover will open up, it'll just unplug your battery, same as like a Sting R.
Yeah, so we'll pull this bolt out. We already took the nut off. See, that drops out of the way. You kind of have to lift the bike up a little bit to be able to open the door fully.
Okay, we got these 2 bolts loosened, they just move out of the way. This comes right up. Boom, unplugged. Now there's no electricity going to anything, so we're good to go up here. We're gonna take off these connectors. This is the wire we cut in the last video so we could have full speed. It's easy if you get a little tool to push these push pins in. Boom, okay. Those are all done. Now we got our 5 power and motor wires. So they're all labeled, so you're good to go. Okay, now we're gonna put these plastic pieces on. They go right here and just bolt to the same stock metal brackets. You're gonna need to take your skid plate off to put the bottom bolt in, but then you can put it right back on. You don't need to cut it or anything. What we're gonna use are they give you new bolts with a nut. The nut is gonna go inside this plastic piece, and it's shaped so that you don't have to hold it or nothing. Then on this side you just thread it in and get it, and on this side you just thread it in, and it's good to go. Okay, that piece is on. We'll get the other piece on, then we'll hook these wires up, take off the skid plate, controller will bolt right on, and then we'll be done. This is gonna be the easiest controller I've ever installed. Okay, we got our controller. We got all of our custom wires they made. They're all labeled, and the controller's labeled, so you just find which one matches, stick it in there. And then this is the screen. We're gonna run this up through the frame, and Lance is gonna put the screen on.
Okay, we're gonna start with what you gotta do to install this screen. So first off, you have to remove these 5 little Phillips head screws, and then we're gonna plug in this cable, which will then run down to the controller. Also in here is where you would plug in your regen thumb throttle. We're not doing that in this video because we don't have one yet, but in a future video, we're excited to try that. All right, so we're gonna plug it in this first larger slot that's called system. So go ahead and just line that up. There's only one way it can plug in, so just kind of be careful when you're lining it up to make sure it goes in. So we got this first plug plugged into this system slot. It says system right underneath those wires. If you're doing that thumb regen throttle, you would plug it into the throttle one. You can also within here, if you want to use that regen throttle as an actual throttle to go with instead of your twist throttle, you could swap it to the other side of your bar, and you can do that within the settings in here. You also have a lot of different plugs and wiring setups that you could do at some point. They don't give you wiring for anything else, so we're not super familiar with that, but there is a ton of customizability within this controller, which is super cool. So we're gonna button this back up. I'll show you how to mount it on the bars.
All right, time to take the skid plate off, and we'll get the rest of these wires plugged in.
To install this, all
right, Lance.
You've messed me up like 8 times in a row, so now I'm struggling. So to install this display, you're going to use a GoPro style mount, and we're going to actually replace this stem top cap. So we're going to remove that, we're going to loosen both these side things, and then when we put it back together, you need to make sure that you tighten this one first. So you tighten this on first, and then you clamp the sides. That is to ensure that your headset gets clamped together. Screw that. They give you 2 different bolts so that you get the right thread pitch, and this is the correct one. So the one with the finer threads, we're going to drop on there. We're going to thread into there. It's going to go in, and we'll line it up, and then you have to make sure that your bar is straight. Your bar will obviously turn, so you need to line that up with your front wheel, and then like I said, tighten this one down first. You need to go nice and snug, not like ridiculously tight, but snug, and then you'll do these side ones.
Alright guys, we got all the wires hooked up. There's plenty of room for all the wires in the back. We're just gonna shove all those up there. Put this up there. Alright you guys, turns out we did it backwards. We're supposed to put these on the controller and then hook this onto here. So make sure you got your 2 nuts in there, and then you can bolt this on. Oh! Okay, so the bolts you're gonna use are those long ones I was showing you earlier, and the nut. So then it just goes through there. You put the nut on. Then to do these side ones, you use the same stock bolts you had that you took off the other controller. And those will go right in and screw onto those nuts.
So we have the wire that's hooked up to the screen running down by the handlebar, going down behind the light.
Cut this zip tie, put it right there, put a new zip tie on, and put it right through here down to the controller. Okay, we got our whole assembly put together, we got our covers on the wires, we got all of them plugged in. Everything's good to go. These pieces are on now. It's time to put it on. It's on.
Yeah, that is on. I got the wire coming down from the display zip tied up in a couple spots. It looks super clean.
Alright, we got the whole controller put on. That was the easiest controller we've ever put on, which is super awesome. Now we just gotta plug the battery back in. We'll see if it even works.
Yeah, look how clean that is looking. It literally looks OEM, even with the 3D printed brackets. It'll look even better when they do that injection molded.
For sure.
And then the display hooks right up. Like, look how nice that looks, all centered up on the bar. Easy to read, large. It's got the nice tactile buttons, and the wiring was so easy, way easier than a Surron, Talaria Sting. Any other controller we put on, you just literally just pop it right down, right under the horn cover, and plug it in. So that was awesome. Now let's plug our battery back in.
Boom. Plugged in.
Screw those back in.
We forgot to take our screen off. That's okay, we'll leave it on. Let's do a auto setup. Okay, here we go. Full setup. On. Make sure your wheel is good to free spin. And we're going. Brake. I'm not pressing because they're not hooked up. Just gonna skip that. Throttle. Release. Ready? Yeah.
That's normal, don't worry.
We're good.
So that was basically calibrating the motor and learning how the motor runs and what it needs to be able to run for this specific motor. So it's kind of an auto-tune feature, if you will, that also calibrates, you know, by spinning the wheel forward, spinning the wheel backwards. Now we got to go in and change a few other parameters to get us up and running.
So we're gonna save that So that is good to go. Let's see if it goes. Whoop.
That's awesome. Look at that.
Okay, now that we're in the settings, we're gonna do a couple parameters, make sure it's all good to go. So we're gonna go to our battery. We're gonna make sure it is on 16S for the stock 60-volt battery. And we're just gonna apply setup. And those are all the settings that you're gonna wanna use. It should already be good to go. Now, we're gonna go to control modes. This is gonna be your power and your speed and your phase amps, for your 3 different modes, 1, 2, and 3. We're gonna set them pretty high and see what this battery is capable of running. One more thing I forgot to mention. We're gonna set our throttle. So you're gonna go to control, and this is our throttle modes. We got 5 different ones. Our favorite one is power plus torque. So we're just gonna run with that. It is super smooth throttle. You can go and play with those however you want. Make sure you save all those settings after you do it, or you have to start over. And that's all we're gonna do for now. You can do tons more, but we're gonna go test this out, see if it can even handle 9 kilowatts and see what the top speed is. We'll test it against our other Talaria X. Let's go from there.
Okay guys, it's a couple days later after we did that install video on this controller. We've been riding it as much as we can. The weather has been awful. Lately it's been snowing like crazy. You can see the bike is covered in mud, water, snow. We've been doing some experimenting because we sort of had a feeling that this battery was going to be fairly limited in how much extra power we could pull by adding an aftermarket controller, and that kind of seems to be the case. So we're going to put the numbers up on screen for what we ended up maxing out this battery to. There's basically 3 settings. You have your battery amps, which is going to be your kilowatt rating of power. Then you have your phase amps, which is essentially your torque. So that's another number that you hit kind of when you floor the throttle, and then that power level will back down as you get faster and faster in your speed. And then field weakening. Field weakening is kind of a combination that in certain cases, the higher you go, the higher top speed you're going to get. In this case, we had to set it pretty dang low to not trip our battery. So we were at 110 battery amps, which is 6.6 kilowatts. We were at 300 phase amps, which is our torque number, and our field weakening was 78 amps. So again, we'll put those up on screen. You guys can go in and tune your controller in that kind of mode customization profile where you can set mode 1, 2, and 3. That's the max that we were able to get. Now, in certain cases, you can go higher on one of those numbers, but you're gonna have to back down another one. They kind of work in combination where if you turn your field weakening way up, you will get a higher top speed, but you'll trip your battery at the same time unless you turn down your power or say turn down your torque. So there's some experimenting you can do with that. But in all reality, guys, even though this controller is super easy to install, it is functioning well, I don't think it's worth buying this for the Unicycle XXX because they have apparently tuned their controller to the max that this battery will limit. And again, we do not ever recommend bypassing your battery's BMS system. That's a safety system. You do not want to bypass that. It can cause fire damage and a whole lot of other stuff. Now, where this controller might be really good is on the international version of the XXX, which runs lower power from the factory. So that bike only comes with 5,000 watts, where the Unicycle edition like this is 6,500 watts, so 6,500. And like I said, we were only able to tune this to 6,600, and it feels a little bit faster. We'll have to see in a drag race in a second. We did those drag races. But I think that if you put this controller on the international version with the same 40 amp hour battery, I think you could get that bike to be the same speed as a Unicycle version, which could be super cool. If that's something you want to do for $900, you can still do more custom tuning. You can still do different throttle profiles and get it to feel smoother than the Unicycle version. So it's not like a total waste of money, but I think if you have an international version, it's going to be much more worth your while. If you have the Unicycle version, it's not worth it unless you're eventually going to get an upgraded battery. Then you can really use the full potential of this controller. Okay, now we're going to head out. We're going to show you those drag races. We just got them done. It is snowy out there. Let's see what happened.
Okay, we're about to drag race the 2 Talaria X's. The one on the right is the one with the Nucular controller. The one on the left is Reed on the stock bike. Okay, Nucular is on the right, stock is on the left. Uh-oh. Okay, about to start another drag race. The Nucular controller is on the right.
3, 2, 1, go!
And the stock bike is on the left. Looks like they're neck and neck. Nucular was barely ahead. Okay, they're off doing another drag race. Sorry for not filming as much riding in this video. I don't know if you can see, but it's snowing and there's snow everywhere. It hasn't stopped snowing for like a week, and there's lots more to come. Okay, same as before. Nucular is on the right. Stock Talaria is on the left. Both riders are about the same weight, by the way, so that shouldn't play a big factor.
3, 2, 1, go!
Okay, as far as I can tell, they started about the same. Okay,
Go!
nice! Nucular controller got him for a minute.
We're back from the drag race. As you guys could see, that this bike is a little bit faster, but not that big of a difference like I was saying. I want to talk about top speed as well. We were able to get pretty much the exact same top speed as we did before on this bike, about 49 to 50 miles an hour on a flat road. We did some messing around trying to get better top speed settings, and we were able to get like 1 or 2 miles an hour faster, but we had to kind of lower some of the other numbers that decrease acceleration and decrease power, and so it wasn't necessarily the best case all round. Now, the numbers that we did in the drag race that you guys just saw are the numbers I told you about earlier, all those 3 settings. So that's kind of the best settings we found so far. You guys are welcome to play around. I do need to talk about what happens when the battery BMS trips, because it happened a lot to us while we were setting up all these settings and trying to figure out where the limits are. What happens is sometimes it will trip the BMS, your throttle will cut out, but then you can immediately go back into some of the power. It immediately comes back. But every once in a while you will get a full-on BMS trip where it is kind of like it's disconnecting from the controller, and your battery will relink again later. But what happened is on the screen you can actually see your battery volts, and you can set all this up, but you can see our battery volts is 65.8. You know, that is in the high realm of a 60 volt battery's charge state. So this is like 90% state of charge right now. When we were having it trip, it would go down into the 40 volts, which is well below 0% on a 60 volt battery. So that is literally just disconnecting, and it's not changing volts or anything. We had to wait about a minute, turn the bike off and back on, and then it went back where it was supposed to be in the 60 volts. So just keep that in mind. Your battery is not getting ruined by doing that because it has a BMS. That's the BMS's job. It's protecting it. Now, if you bypass your battery, that all goes away, and it's just not safe, and we do not recommend it once again. So I think you guys know if this controller is right for you. I mean, it's a $900 controller. It's a fairly premium controller. You do have a lot of customization options. You can do that thumb regen throttle, which is super cool. I think if you are gonna get an upgraded battery for your XXX at some point, then this is still an awesome controller for you. It just has one disadvantage, and this is one thing I don't like about it, is that it has a motor RPM limit built in. And that RPM limit is about 52 miles an hour depending on your gearing. And we've found that with when we have this controller on our Talaria Sting R and on this bike. And we've asked Nucular what the deal is with that RPM limit, because on our Talaria Sting R, we've gotten that stock motor to spin up to about 70 miles an hour with the same battery and same settings as on this controller. It'll only do 52. So we asked them what the deal was. They said that there is an RPM limit setting in there, and it can be changed, but it voids your warranty, so we don't recommend that, and we're not going to be doing that either. So it's kind of a bummer. I wish there was no RPM limit, because our other controllers, they go way faster top speed. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Sorry it was a little inside and boring and didn't have any real exciting riding, but it's literally a blizzard outside. Reed, you can show the snow coming down right there. But we appreciate you guys watching. If you guys are interested in this controller, check the link in our description. Head on over to Nucular's website. You can do that purchase process. They are in another country, so it seems a little bit weird. You end up putting in all your info, and they send you a WhatsApp message or an email to actually complete the order. That is normal. That's how we ordered. That's how some of our friends have ordered, and some of our other subscribers have ordered. So it's totally normal. And use our discount code. You just put that in and let them know that Talaria Boys sent you there, and you'll be good to go. I think we need to give some credit to Lunicycle for the tune that they did on the XXX, because they got every ounce of power out of this battery that they could, and they took that international version and really made it a much better bike. Because normally aftermarket controllers can change a bike pretty drastically and get you a bunch more power, but not with this, because they've already tuned it to the max. So we'll give them credit there. Thanks for watching, guys. Hit that subscribe button. We'll catch you next video. See ya.